Greetings. Hi, I'm Dr. Walter Jacobson, a board certified psychiatrist. Most people have anxiety. For many, it is manageable. For many, it is incredibly uncomfortable and unpleasant. And for some, it's even beyond that. They have panic attacks where the anxiety is so intense they think they're going to have a heart attack. They think they're going to go crazy. Their heart's beating fast. They're short of breath. Lightheaded, dizzy, nauseous. They could have blurred vision. They could have numbness and tingling in their arms and fingers and feet and toes. They could have you know upset stomach and diarrhea. Their whole body malfunctions. It's terrible. Okay. And there's various treatments for anxiety. Certainly, one of the quick fixes is take a pill, take a tranquilizer, and that'll calm you down. Unfortunately, the anxiety is going to come back, and you're going to need another pill, and you're going to become addicted. Or even if you're on pills that aren't addicting, you're just on a bunch of chemicals that are not innocuous. You should try to avoid as many chemicals as possible, even the good ones, and take the good ones. If you need to take them in as little quantity as possible to get you through what you need to do. So the point is, if you have a lot of anxiety and panic and you get into pill popping, that's not the best solution. Yeah, initially maybe it is, but you should try to engage in other behaviors so you don't have to have the anxiety, or so that you can deal with the anxiety better and you don't need the pills. There are other pills that you take every day as opposed to popping pills when you get anxious, and that's another way to address the anxiety, and that's, I think, better than taking tranquilizers around the clock, but that too has its limitations. It's still chemicals. The better way is to, if possible, to change your mind, to learn how to look at the anxiety and the fear and the conflict that the anxiety and panic represents. Many times people will say that the anxiety came out of nowhere. They weren't thinking about anything. Well, they weren't consciously thinking about anything, but we are oftentimes subconsciously thinking about things. We pick up stuff that in the background we may hear a radio commercial or a song or a TV show while we're working or whatever. I mean, we can hear a conversation. Even our subconscious mind is always working anyway, and it can be thinking about stuff and that might be very disturbing to us, but on a conscious level, we're not aware of it. Our attention's someplace else, and so we're just going about our own business. And then suddenly we start feeling anxious and panicky. It's because the subconscious thought, the fear, the conflict, the confusion, the dread bubbled up. Usually, it's catastrophic fear about the future. That is oftentimes suppressed. We don't think about it, but it's there in the subconscious, and maybe it bubbles up, and then suddenly it breaks through, and now you have what appears to be free-floating anxiety or a panic attack out of nowhere. But there is a thought, there is a reason, there is a thought that triggers that anxiety. The anxiety is a representation of some thought, some conflict in your mind, some fear about the future, the way something may go one way or another, maybe the way maybe something horrible is going to happen, like a earthquake, or you're going to drop dead, or someone's going to leave you. I mean, you're going to get cancer. You're going to get fired. You're going to be homeless. There's like a trillion triggers. Should I take this job or that job? Should I, take this promotion? Should I look for a different job? Should I, whatever? There's a million things that can trigger our anxieties, our fears about the future, our fears about the choices we have made or are going to make, etc. There's a thought there. There's a thought that's triggering the anxiety, and you're not in touch with it, but that's how you heal. That's how you avoid needing to take medicine. You figure out what the thought is and you deal with it. If it's so you try to bring it to consciousness, and therapy can help you to do that, definitely. But you can do it yourself too. You just want to try to think about what was going on right before the anxiety happened, or 10 minutes before the anxiety happened, or a half hour before the anxiety happened. You try to brainstorm. You try to let your mind float around and just let it roam around your head, and try to think about what may have triggered this. And sometimes something will bubble up to the surface. Now, if you can actually latch on to what the fear thought was, what the thought was that triggered the anxiety, then you ask yourself, is it rational? Is it realistic? Is it, should I be afraid? And oftentimes the answer is no, it's not realistic, it's not rational. The odds of that happening are massively unlikely. So you really are just overreacting out of insecurity or whatever, and you need to let it go and stop worrying about it. And then you got to teach yourself to do that, to let go and stop worrying about it. But if it's a realistic fear, then you got to ask yourself, okay, well, is there anything I can do about it? Is there anything I can do to reduce the stress or to reduce the situation or to make the situation better? Is there anything I can do to change this outcome? And if there is, then you take action. You're proactive. You take steps. You do it. If there isn't, and it's like a situation that's just, it's bad and it's not going to get better, then you have to find a way to accept it and make the most of it and try to find the silver lining and try to see any kind of blessings in disguise. And if there is none, you still try to find a lesson to learn from it all and try to make the most of it and the most of your time, the best of your time on the planet, despite the problem, the limitation, the lack you may be experiencing. So yeah, panic, anxiety is always a thought. There's a trigger. And if you're not aware of it, you try to think about it. You try to bring to consciousness what the unconscious trigger was. You try to think about what ambivalent stuff you may have in your life, what things you're doing that you're conflicted about. And it's probably one of those areas that's jumping up where you know you should do something and you're not doing it. Or you are doing something you know you shouldn't be doing. And so you need to start taking heed and paying attention and making those changes. And when you make those changes, oftentimes the anxiety goes away.